The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not specify the depth or exact location of the pool bonding wire. The common practice involves burying the bonding wire in the trench around the pool, but this is a convention and not a strict requirement. The primary objective is to ensure the bonding wire is correctly connected to the grounding rods at the equipment pad and to all metallic electrical components within the pool area. When this condition is met, the bonding system is generally considered effective. Regarding re-inspections, it is standard procedure for inspectors to revisit specific areas where deficiencies were noted during the initial inspection. However, a blanket re-inspection of areas previously approved is not generally required. A polite inquiry to the inspector for clarification on why he wants to re-inspect the potting compound and grounding wire of the wet niches is reasonable. This will help determine the specific concerns driving the request. Concerning trench depth, the NEC mandates that the trench depth should be sufficient to prevent physical damage to the bonding wire. However, it intentionally refrains from specifying a precise depth measurement. This flexibility allows for site-specific considerations. Negotiation with the inspector to reach a mutually agreeable trench depth that adequately protects the bonding wire is a viable option. Finally, regarding unprofessional conduct, it is unacceptable for an inspector to engage in screaming or disrespectful behavior. In such instances, you have the right to file a formal complaint with the town or county building department outlining the details of the inspector's behavior. When dealing with an inspector, it is advisable to calmly and professionally articulate the relevant NEC requirements and the specific steps you have undertaken to ensure proper bonding. If the inspector remains unreasonable despite your efforts, seeking legal advice or contacting the building department for further assistance may become necessary. The paramount goal is to guarantee the safety and compliance of the pool installation while maintaining a respectful and professional interaction. Understanding electrical bonding involves several key aspects. Firstly, the purpose of bonding is to create an electrically safe environment around the pool. This is achieved by connecting all metallic parts of the pool structure and equipment to a common ground. This ensures that there are no voltage differences between these parts, which could pose a shock hazard. Secondly, the bonding conductor, typically an 8 American wire gauge solid copper wire, must be continuous and unbroken. It should encircle the pool and connect to all metallic components, including the pool reinforcing steel, metal fittings, pump motor, and any other electrical equipment. Thirdly, connections must be made using approved bonding connectors that are suitable for direct burial. These connectors ensure a reliable and corrosion-resistant connection. Fourthly, the bonding grid must be connected to the pool equipment grounding system. This provides a path for fault current to return to the electrical panel, tripping the circuit breaker and energizing the circuit. Fifthly, the NEC provides specific guidelines for bonding different types of pool construction, including in-ground, above-ground, and storable pools. These guidelines must be followed to ensure compliance and safety. Sixthly, the bonding system should be inspected regularly to ensure that all connections are intact and that there is no corrosion or damage to the wiring. Any issues should be addressed immediately to maintain the effectiveness of the bonding system. Seventhly, when installing a pool, it is important to work with qualified professionals who are familiar with the NEC requirements for pool bonding. This will help to ensure that the installation is done correctly and that the pool is safe to use. Eighthly, local codes may have additional requirements that go beyond the NEC. It is important to check with the local building department to ensure compliance of all applicable codes. Ninthly, the bonding system should be tested after installation to verify its effectiveness. This can be done using a bonding meter to measure the resistance between different points on the bonding grid. Tenthly, proper bonding is essential for preventing electrical shock hazards in and around the pool. It is a critical safety measure that should not be overlooked. When addressing concerns about the continuity of the bonding wire, several points should be considered. Firstly, the purpose of the bonding wire is to create an equipotential plane around the pool, ensuring that all metallic parts are at the same electrical potential. This minimizes the risk of electrical shock. Secondly, the bonding wire must be continuous and unbroken. Splices are generally not allowed, as they can create points of high resistance that compromise the effectiveness of the bonding system. Thirdly, the bonding wire should be connected to all metallic parts of the pool structure and equipment, including the pool reinforcing steel, metal fittings, pump motor, and any other electrical equipment. Fourthly, connections must be made using approved bonding connectors that are suitable for direct burial. These connectors ensure a reliable and corrosion-resistant connection. Fifthly, the bonding wire should be buried in the ground around the pool, typically at a depth of 18 inches. This helps to protect the wire from physical damage and corrosion. Sixthly, the bonding wire should be connected to the pool equipment grounding system. This provides a path for fault current to return to the electrical panel, tripping the circuit breaker and energizing the circuit. Seventhly, the NEC provides specific guidelines for the size and type of bonding wire that should be used. These guidelines must be followed to ensure compliance and safety. Eighthly, if the inspector questions the continuity of the bonding wire, you may need to provide documentation to show that the wire is continuous and unbroken. This could include photographs or video recordings of the installation process. Ninthly, if there is any doubt about the integrity of the bonding wire, it is best to replace it. This will ensure that the bonding system is effective and that the pool is safe to use. Tenthly, proper bonding is essential for preventing electrical shock hazards in and around the pool. It is a critical safety measure that should not be overlooked. Regarding the encapsulation of rebar in the pool structure, there are several important considerations. Firstly, the rebar in a concrete pool shell serves as a structural component and also plays a role in the pool's bonding system. Secondly, the NEC requires that the pool rebar be bonded together to create a continuous bonding grid. This is typically done by connecting the rebar with bonding clamps or welding them together. Thirdly, the bonding grid must be connected to the pool equipment grounding system. This provides a path for fault current to return to the electrical panel, tripping the circuit breaker and energizing the circuit. Fourthly, the rebar should be bonded before the concrete is poured. This ensures that the bonding connections are protected from corrosion and damage. Fifthly, the bonding connection should be inspected before the concrete is poured to ensure that they are properly made and that they are securely fastened. Sixthly, if the rebar is encapsulated in concrete before it is bonded, it may be difficult to make the necessary connections. In this case, you may need to chip away some of the concrete to expose the rebar. Seventhly, the NEC allows for alternative methods of bonding the rebar, such as using a conductive epoxy or a grounding plate. These methods may be necessary if it is not possible to make direct connections to the rebar. Eighthly, if the inspector wants to see the connection to the rebar, you may need to provide access to the rebar by chipping away some of the concrete. Ninthly, it is important to document the bonding process, including photographs and video recordings of the connections. This will help to demonstrate that the rebar has been properly bonded. Tenthly, proper bonding of the rebar is essential for preventing electrical shock hazards in and around the pool. It is a critical safety measure that should not be overlooked. When dealing with an inspector who is requesting seemingly unnecessary or previously approved inspections, it is important to approach the situation calmly and professionally. Firstly, try to understand the inspector's concerns. Ask specific questions about why he or she is requesting the additional inspections. There may be a valid reason for the request, such as a misunderstanding or a concern about the quality of the previous work. Secondly, review the original inspection report and the applicable codes. This will help you to determine whether the inspector's request is justified. If the inspector is requesting something that is not required by code, you can politely point this out. Thirdly, provide documentation to support your position. This could include photographs, video recordings, or written statements from other professionals who have worked on the project. Fourthly, if you disagree with the inspector's request, try to negotiate a compromise. For example, you could offer to provide additional documentation or to perform a limited inspection of the area in question. Fifthly, if you are unable to resolve the issue with the inspector, you can appeal the decision to a higher authority. This could be the building department or a local appeals board. Sixthly, it is important to remain respectful and professional throughout the process. Avoid getting into arguments or making personal attacks. This will only make the situation worse. Seventhly, document all communication with the inspector, including the date, time, and content of the conversation. This will be helpful if you need to appeal the decision. Eighthly, seek advice from other professionals, such as an attorney or a building consultant. They can provide you with guidance on how to handle the situation. Ninthly, be prepared to compromise. It is often possible to reach a mutually agreeable solution that satisfies the inspector's concerns without requiring you to perform unnecessary work. Tenthly, remember that the goal is to ensure that the pool is safe and compliant with all applicable codes. This is in everyone's best interest. The NEC does not specify a minimum depth for the bonding wire trench, but it does require that the wire be protected from physical damage. This means that the trench must be deep enough to prevent the wire from being damaged by digging, landscaping, or other activities. The depth of the trench will depend on the specific conditions at the site, such as the type of soil, the amount of traffic, and the presence of other underground utilities. In general, a trench depth of 6 to 12 inches is sufficient to protect the bonding wire. However, in areas with heavy traffic or rocky soil, a deeper trench may be necessary. If the bonding wire is not buried in a trench, it must be protected by other means, such as conduit or a protective cover. The NEC also requires that the bonding wire be accessible for inspection and maintenance. This means that the wire must be located in a place where it can be easily inspected and repaired. If the bonding wire is buried in a trench, it should be marked with a warning tape or other marker to prevent accidental damage. The bonding wire should be inspected regularly to ensure that it is in good condition and that it is properly connected. If the bonding wire is damaged or corroded, it should be replaced immediately. Proper bonding is essential for preventing electrical shock hazards in and around the pool. It is a critical safety measure that should not be overlooked. When the bonding wire takes a different path to the pad, and that path is not as deep, the following considerations apply. Firstly, while the NEC does not mandate a specific depth for the bonding wire, it does require that the wire be protected from physical damage. Secondly, if the bonding wire is routed in a way that exposes it to potential damage, such as running it along the surface of the ground or in an area where it could be easily stepped on, it may be necessary to provide additional protection. Thirdly, one option for protecting the bonding wire is to encase it in conduit. This will provide a physical barrier that will protect the wire from damage. Fourthly, another option is to bury the wire in a deeper trench. This will provide more protection from physical damage, but it may also make it more difficult to inspect and maintain the wire. Fifthly, if the bonding wire is routed in a way that makes it difficult to inspect, it may be necessary to provide access points for inspection. This could include installing junction boxes or pull boxes along the wire's path. Sixthly, the inspector may have concerns about the aesthetics of the bonding wire's path. If the wire is visible, it may detract from the appearance of the pool area. In this case, you may need to work with the inspector to find a solution that is both safe and aesthetically pleasing. Seventhly, it is important to document the bonding wire's path and the methods used to protect it. This will help to demonstrate that the bonding system is compliant with the NEC. Eighthly, if you are unsure about the best way to route the bonding wire, it is best to consult with a qualified electrician. They can provide you with guidance on how to ensure that the bonding system is safe and compliant with all applicable codes. Ninthly, proper bonding is essential for preventing electrical shock hazards in and around the pool. It is a critical safety measure that should not be overlooked. Tenthly, the primary objective is to ensure electrical safety while also addressing any aesthetic or practical concerns that may arise. When an inspector's behavior becomes unprofessional, it's important to handle the situation carefully and strategically. Firstly, remain calm and professional yourself. Reacting emotionally will likely escalate the situation and undermine your position. Secondly, document everything. Keep a detailed record of the inspector's behavior, including the date, time, specific comments, and any witnesses present. Thirdly, if possible, try to de-escalate the situation in the moment. You might say something like, "I understand you're frustrated, but I'd appreciate it if we could discuss this calmly and respectfully." Fourthly, if the inspector's behavior is truly egregious, you may need to end the conversation. You could say something like, "I don't feel comfortable continuing this conversation in this tone. I'm going to contact your supervisor to discuss this further." Fifthly, contact the inspector's supervisor or the relevant regulatory agency. Explain the situation and provide them with your documentation. Sixthly, consider filing a formal complaint. This will create a formal record of the incident and may trigger an investigation. Seventhly, seek legal advice. An attorney can advise you on your rights and options. Eighthly, be prepared to negotiate. It may be possible to reach a compromise with the inspector or the regulatory agency. Ninthly, focus on the facts. Avoid making personal attacks or exaggerating the situation. Tenthly, remember that you have the right to be treated with respect. An inspector's job is to ensure compliance with the code, not to bully or intimidate you. It's important to know your rights and to stand up for yourself.